Hello and welcome back to another new edition of Windows and Current Affairs, and today we continue to embark over one of the important topics that is also one of the main concerns for the Egyptian administration, and for years now, empowering and enforcing youth on many ways, on many fronts. Of course, we have come a long way. For 7 years now, youth have maintained a very strong position, have fulfilled their ambitions and their aspirations, and they are moving to a whole new level with the directives of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, and also with the vision of the 2023 and until 2063, the Sustainable Development Goals. Youth are executing or fulfilling all the plans and looking forward to achieve more gains and more ambitions. And of course, today we're going to be looking forward or taking a comprehensive look over that very same topic. We're very delighted to be having with us here live in the studio Engineer Mohamed Azzam. He is board member, International Association Management of Technology. Good evening, Engineer Azzam. How are you doing?
Good evening to you and to your distinguished viewers. Always a pleasure and honor in being at Nile TV.
Our real pleasure, and thank you for coming. And also, let us first start by this Egyptian administration. Ever since President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi have set his feet into office, and during his tenure until now, youth have maintained a boom in their positions and in their aspirations, and have taken a very good space, a very rich space in the map of the economic map, the political map, the social map. If you like to elaborate.
Thank you for this question. Actually, youth are representing the future, and of course, Egypt now is building itself to be one of the economic power by 2030, and to be one of the key players in different aspects, actually. And this couldn't be realized unless the Egyptian state is focusing on building the competences and the capabilities of youth in different directions. That's, you mentioned the political direction, the economic direction, the education, the healthcare system, and we've seen now many youth leaders are taking responsibilities in highest office in their places, and that's including governors, including deputy governors, including assistant to different ministers. We've seen them in the Egyptian parliament. We've seen them leading huge initiatives like Hayya Karima by young men and ladies are doing a great effort, and they are exerting a great thing for the benefit of the society as well as the economy at large. So we've seen a lot of evidences that youth are now empowered, and we've seen that over the last 8 years since President Sisi took the responsibility and took the office back in 2014. So this is very important, and now Egypt has a strategy for doing this, which is also a very critical element. Without having a strategy, you cannot plan for the future, you cannot be ready for the future. So there are a lot of venues that available now to empower youth on the social and economic as well as the political levels, and it's very quite obvious for everyone now in Egypt.
We're going to take one by one, because there were very important steps taken almost 7 years now. But let us first start by one of the major steps that has been taken, which is the National Training Academy that have graduated almost 3 batches now of Egyptian and African youth. And those youth now are maintaining positions, leading positions, and also leading initiatives, civil initiatives, and they are sharing also in the Alliance for Civil Society. So how important is that academy? And talk to us about the idea, and how did it start exactly? How is it working? How is it qualifying those youth to be leaders, especially that we have seen, we've hosted batches over here. They were very remarkable characters.
This for sure. Actually, NTA, or the National Training Academy, was part of the Egyptian strategy for empowering youth in the country. And the beauty here is everyone can apply, and of course selection is is being based according to very well-known scheme for selecting the top minds, the most promising young ladies and gentlemen to be enrolled within the academy. It started at the beginning by what's called the PLP, or the Presidential Leadership Program. Then the concept, the notion itself has evolved to become an institutional concept or institutional notion by founding the NTA, or the National Training Academy. During the courses that, or according to the courses they are being introduced to the youth in the NTA, you can find a lot of things, a lot of aspects. Actually, it's the 360-degree kind of knowledge they are taking. So they are having more knowledge about marketing, about entrepreneurship, about technology, about economic studies, about political studies, about the national security issues. So it's very comprehensive, actually, coursework that are taking place in NTA that helping this kind of youth, or this, I would say, remarkable, because they are remarkable, to be equipped with the right skills to become leaders in the future. So now we have a mechanism, an institutional mechanism for creating leaders, which is very important, and we were missing this notion for decades in Egypt, since maybe over the last 40 years. However, now Egypt has a mechanism, an institutional mechanism, to equip youth who are actually have certain skills, have certain set of knowledge, to equip them with the proper knowledge, with the proper kind of way of thinking, to see the big picture, to be connected with the decision makers all over the country, to be integral part of the overall economic and social, as well as political reform that is taking place nowadays. So this is a very important announcement, and having this announcement, of course, will be the responsible announcement for having a pipeline of leaders in every aspect, when it comes to economic sectors, or coming to the social sectors, or coming to the political sector. So now we can have a sort of a pipeline full of qualified young men and women who are well trained, who will equipped with the right set of knowledge and skills, and can take the lead in different agendas and different files when it comes to the progression of Egypt according to the Egypt Vision 2030.
Right, also, and very important, also focusing over the people with determination, or youth with determination, who forms a good sector, a good percentage of society, and they're also good calibers. They have some little disabilities, but still they are useful to society. They have rights, and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi have given special concern to that sector in society, and have opened new venues for them and for specialists in that particular field to be able to empower those youth. And earlier there was Qadirun Bikhtilaf, and there were very amazing icons and examples of successes that were showing on stage and talked to the president in person, and represented I mean, their abilities and their ambitions and even their ideas and plans. So talk to us about also this particular sector.
In the new republic, actually, no one will be left behind, which is very important. People with disabilities, with people with determination, they have now some venues to get some skills that matches their kind of disability to be able to join the job market. I would recall also there's another initiative, it's called the Information Technology Academy for people with disability, for including people with disability in the very advanced economic sector, which is the communication information technology, and they are equipping people with disability with the right skill set and the right talent for providing services. For example, working in the contact centers or the call centers, or helping them to develop technological products and services that are mainly targeting other people with disabilities. And we've seen a lot of great examples from youth with having a sort of disability, building different technological applications and services and gadgets for other segments who have also sort of disability. So it's becoming now is very inclusive, because if you need to progress as a country, you need to be having a sort of inclusive community. No one should not be left behind. So this including having a sort of inclusion in the healthcare system, having a sort of inclusion within the education system, within the job market, within the training, and of course such programs are specifically tailored for people with disability to be able to deal with their kind of disability, to be more productive, to be more innovative. And I would say during the few coming years we'll see a great movement and a great progress in this topic, actually, because it's under the auspices of His Excellency the President, as well as the government is really working hard to implement such a vision in every single program that is taking place now.
Right. So far, we have seen youth invading different fields and achieving successes, different successes. But there has been fields that were very prominent, became very prominent because and flourished because of the existence of youth or because of the effects of youth, like Hayat Karima, for example, and like some social or civil activities. Talk to us about the most remarkable or the highlights of successes of youth in civil society that have is related so much, that is part and parcel of social development.
Actually, we've seen this every day. If you see Hayat Karima as an institution, this institution is led by a young lady. And all the volunteers, the workers, the helpers, the people who are planning for this kind of programs and initiatives are from youth, or coming from youth, actually, and they are overseeing every single aspect within the initiative. They are working on ground, and they are providing a lot of help to the people in less developed rural areas, to include everyone within the society. And again, if you don't have this kind of inclusive community, it would be very hard to become one of the leading nations according to the ambitious plan of the Vision 2030. So you are working on the dimension, on the social dimension, you are working on the economic dimension, you are working on the political dimension, and having a sort of integration between the three pillars within the society, this definitely will develop a different community, a different economy, and eventually you'll be a room for everyone with this, within this society to have a decent life, which is the translation of Haya Karima. It's a decent life, and decent life is not only about having a suitable, decent place to live in, equipped with clean water, equipped with sewage, equipped with electricity, equipped with internet and education,
and
but also you are now developing initiatives for creating jobs for people living in rural areas or less privileged areas.
Exactly.
Based on the natural resources that are privileged in such areas. So you are creating a totally different economic system now, based on small and micro enterprises connected within a cluster that producing products and services of economic value. So you are eradicating a lot of issues that could lead to problems, could lead to poverty,
layoffs,
and so you are now having a sort of inclusive, integrated, holistic framework that you are working with it, which is something we haven't witnessed or haven't experienced for many years. But according to this kind of new initiatives, now you can have the mechanism for having inclusive community, and inclusive with the right meaning of having inclusive community, because you are not only providing them with a decent place and leaving them unemployed, for example, or uneducated. No, you are working in parallel to include everyone in the education system, or the formal education system, or the vocational education system. You train them, you reskill them. You need also, or you're working on upskilling them.
Also.
Part of that is awareness, of course, and you are providing now initiatives for creating jobs through micro enterprises, which is very important to any economy, not only in Egypt but all over the world. Most, like I would say,
and it's the key to any modern economic reform program. But also talking about the providing or facilitating job opportunities for the new generations and for youth and everybody. It looks like the Egyptian administration have set not only a plan but also a modern strategy that is taking everything relatively together. I mean, developing with the country the infrastructural projects, the network of infrastructural projects is taking youth or giving youth the job opportunities, facilitating their lives, and removing the people from the informal settlements to a totally new environment where there are new schools, new hospitals, and there is also the change of the mindset and the awareness of the environment that they are moving to is totally different from where they used to live. I mean, how do you assess that particular strategy or plan by the government?
You are working in all directions, because if you need to have a competent, a resilient, competitive nation, you cannot rely on one dimension. So you cannot have resilient economy without having a resilient community, and vice versa. So it's all interconnected, and the country is working in different direction with the same power and the same momentum to build all things together, which is was missing for years. Now you are working in the economic dimension at the same speed as you are the speed of working on the social dimension. You are connecting things together, you are connecting dots, you are not working in silos anymore. That's why we've seen the removal of the informal settlements, and this kind of informal settlements were base for a lot of troubles, a lot of issues when it comes to the Egyptian society.
A lot of different cultural background and wrong awareness. And that is what the reason I'm asking that question is that there were some people opposing the Egyptian administration's decisions or plans or movement or the reform plan that was taken by the Egyptian administration, in the sense of you should consider your priorities. They talked about, they opposed the priorities. They thought it was not important to be able to effect or replace the informal settlements with another place for those people. But after we have seen the whole plan and the whole scene and the whole map, we totally understood that this was supposed to be done firsthand.
Definitely, you cannot have an advanced economy without investing in infrastructure. Simply, any competitive nation,
and without reforming awareness of those sectors in society,
and without having inclusive plan or inclusive strategy, because if you are just investing in infrastructure and you forget about the people, this would be an issue. That's why we've seen the removal of informal settlements to have another sort of decent life to a large sector within the community. And we've seen now Haya Karima, or Decent Life Initiative, which is providing a decent life for like 40-50 million Egyptian individuals all over the country in areas that has never been touched before. And beside building the infrastructure, you're availing opportunities for people there to work, to be productive, to be part of the formal economy, to add more to the GDP, to be able to create wealth. So having a prioritization of or having a sort of priorities, you need to understand that you need to have the big picture at the first place. Then without having the big picture, definitely the priorities will be an issue. That's why the role here, or our role here, is to shed more light on the big picture and to convey the message to the people that everything is aligned, everything is connected. If you are working in building infrastructure like roads, bridges, mass transportation system, this is important because you need to have a modern system or transportation system for trade. And if you are building state-of-the-art or the fourth generation cities, this also are very important because we are facing all over the world what's called urbanization, or moving from rural areas to the urban areas, which is putting more pressure on cities. And cities without some cities are aging as well, so you need to build new cities to cater the increase of the population. Modern cities is very important to attract investment because you are sending the right message to the investment community here in Egypt, or regionally, or even internationally. If you are not working in reforming the education, so it will be very hard to provide talents or pool of talents to investors. Every investor is looking for pool of talents. This is one of the great assets that we have here in Egypt. That's why now we are promoting the entrepreneurship ecosystem for youngster who's using technology to provide services and products that is able, or that are able to attract hundreds of millions of US dollar. Last week, actually, Forbes Middle East just mentioned one of the startups, Egyptian startup working in the fintech. Actually, they're working in the macro lending domain of the fintech. They were able to attract for 1,800 million US dollars over the last 12 months. So it's now we have unicorns, more unicorns would attract more investors in the domain of the high tech, and we are witnessing every month a new startup that is capable to be among the top 30 startups in the region. So it's all inclusive, it's all holistic approach. So you cannot work in something and leave the others, because otherwise your efforts will be debatable. The impact of your efforts will be very hard to
will be incomplete.
Incomplete, and this is the most dangerous thing. So it's not about the priority. Most of the people are saying this because they don't have the big picture in mind. That's why we are trying to provide or to give the message. No, there is a big picture. There's a master plan for developing the country in the agriculture sector, as well as supply chain, as well as healthcare sector, the manufacturing sectors, high-tech sector. So it's all connected. That's why we are working as fast as we can as a country to be ahead of any plan, because we don't have time. The people or the world is facing a crisis since 2020.